If you're here, it means you probably love Halloween just as much as I do. You guys loved my Halloween sweater, as did I. So I want everyone to be able to make one, so I figured I would make a video including all the squares and everything that I used. A just kind of chatty video on what I would change, how I made my sweater. There's no right or wrong way, and these are also just the squares that I used, but I will include some at the end of like some other cool options that maybe you want to use. So, without further ado, feel free to join your granny squares however you normally do. You will never catch me dead sewing granny squares together now. I only use the join as you go, and that is that on that. I will not use another method. It's easy, it's fast, it's my favorite. It keeps the shape, and yeah, so that's how I join. Also, feel free to do your sleeves however, sizing, whatever dimensions you need for you, do. This is just how I made mine. But also, this is my first YouTube video, like video tutorial, so expect some flaws. I'm gonna do my best. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I specialize in chaos. I wanted it to be random. I didn't want two colors next to each other. That vibe. So I always like to kind of draw out a rough color scheme of what square I want to overall be that color. You can also use a granny square color generator, and that is also a lifesaver. You just enter the colors that you want into the color generator. Once you have all that, you just click generate, kind of creates like a color scheme using the colors that you entered. Every square I used was a free pattern, so you shouldn't have to go buy anything unless you want to. I stuck with kind of a Halloween palette, and I did want like a majority of the sweater to be either white, cream, or black. Just so customizable, and I love a granny square because you can make it as big as you want, small as you want, use different hook sizes. You can do how I did on the sleeves, the granny stitch. You can do granny squares down the sleeve. Like, you can literally do anything you want. So, with all of that being said, alright, my laptop's over here, and that's what I'm going to be referencing for the stitches. For the bat square, I had found a YouTube video, perfectly explained everything. It was by the bat and the witch hat. Both of those are by Handmade with Love on YouTube, and everything will be linked in the description, so you can just click and go straight to the square. And they were very easy to follow. Personally, I made the witch hat on the front and the back, and then I did the bat just on the front. Again, anything is customizable. Put the squares wherever. The next square I have is this spider that I did. This one specifically, I had to alter quite a bit. Okay, so this spider is by Katie, and it's from the blog Thor's by Cottage, or Thorsby Cottage. I didn't record myself or like take notes while I made this sweater, so I'm trying my best to like remember what I did. A lot of it is trial and error. If something wasn't looking like it was going to be the size that I thought it should be, I just kind of edited it from there. I would recommend, okay, this granny square right here. So this should be your base, like your baseline square that you want all your other squares to roughly be that size. So make that one first. And then once you have that one, when you're making your other squares, kind of hold them up to that in size reference, and then you can know if you need to like up a hook size, down a hook size, add another row, stuff like that. That's kind of what I do when I'm working with squares that are like all kind of different. So the spider crochet pattern, it says use DK cotton yarn. I do not listen to that ever. I always use size 4 acrylic, and I will not change. It tells you 2.75 millimeter hook. What I changed, okay, so this one specifically has you, it's like, has you crochet the body first, so it'll be like the body, and then you create the square around the body, and then you sew the head onto that. I want to say that I used a 3.5 millimeter hook instead of a 2.75. So I believe I followed the body exactly how I should, but then I was like, this is getting kind of big. For the head, it wants you to make 3 rows, or it has like 3 rounds or whatever. I only did 2, and then sewed that down. It all just depends on like how you made the square and stuff. Personally, for the legs, it said chain like, okay, yeah, for the legs, it had you chain like 12 or whatever. Those ended up being super long for me. I think I chained like 6 and just altered it from there. But same vibe, follow. I did my spider a white background, didn't think that one through, so I did not add the web it was coming off of, but it has that option to add if you want. Moving along, that was the main one where I had to like alter it too much for my liking, and so I only made one of those. On the other side, I made kind of my own pattern. I just made a circle in a granny square. I did 12 double crochets, and then round 2 I did increase and everything, and then I like made the square from there. Then a little tedious. Probably could have made it easier on myself. I think I chained like 8 a bunch of times and then just sewed that chain into the square. A lot of weaving in ends, my least favorite part. So do what you want. And then I did the same thing with this. I chained like 5 or something in white, added the web. But it honestly looks similar to the other one. So do what you want. I have the worst back problems, so that's why I have 19 pillows behind me. If you know, you know. Another thing I just remembered about the last, like the very first spider that I showed you. The square, my square, was going to end up so big if I followed this pattern. I don't know if it's like how I crochet, my tension, whatever, but I did, instead of like how you just keep adding double crochets each round after you've got like the main piece done, I think I made them half double crochets for 2 rows. And that's also another easy thing if your thing, like if you don't want to up a hook size and you're like kind of close to where you need to be, but it needs to be like it's going to be too big, half double crochet row instead of double crochet row is how I did this. I did 2 different pumpkins. I will insert photos of what those looked like. Yeah, the first one is more 3D, and by that it has like the leaf that is 3D. So, what am I even saying? So this pumpkin, this one, very straightforward. Don't think I changed anything about it. I might have. Oh, actually, the only thing I did change was to make it match the size of my reference granny square. On the last round of the square, I did, like I mentioned earlier, just the half double crochets instead of double crochet row. The skull. This is an all-time favorite of mine. I use this granny square all the time. Very straightforward. I did it for after the skull. The square is 3 rounds. The second pumpkin, I believe, I love this. I think it turned out so cute. I love like a cluster granny square, if that makes sense. Like I love when they are like in 3 clusters. Chef's kiss to that because I think it just like truly looks crochet, if that makes sense. Which personal preference, and I obviously have both squares in this. I also like when both squares are mixed because I like when it's wonky, but I love a cluster. So that's why I like this pumpkin more, but I did use both. I used one on the front, one on the back. For a lot of my squares, I did a basic granny square of like this square. I did one color, 5 rows, granny square. And then I found some really cute appliques, so I made those, and then I just sewed them directly onto the square. A little tedious, but it does add texture. Makes it a 3D element. Turns out super cute. I do believe I followed all of them exactly how the pattern said. I just use always a 2.5mm hook, but I don't think I altered them in any way. For the ghost, the first link I have for the ghost, that one, it turned out cute. So this ghost that I made, the first one, it's by Crystal Everdeen on YouTube. The video is very lovely, easy to follow, but it like if I wouldn't have crochet experience, I feel like I wouldn't know. I didn't feel like it was the most beginner friendly. That's what I wanted to say. Like mine ended up turning out okay, and like a granny square, as long as you get the rough shape, it usually turns out into a square, if that makes sense. But like mine doesn't lay 100% flat, and I don't know. I like it. I just didn't love it, which that could entirely be user error. So I did just want to share. I If I could do it again, I probably would have just done the second ghost twice. So the second ghost is an applique, and I think it turned out so cute. It literally turned out so cute. It like she has a bow. Like it's so cute. Like, are we kidding? So I just made 5 rows of granny square, sewed her right on. Love that. For the eyeball, I did not use a pattern. I made that one up. Just follow. I will link a tutorial on how to do a circle. All you have to do is like for each round, use the colors of an eye. And I've also seen people do like veins in it. I just thought the red would kind of kill my vibe on the sweater personally. So I didn't. This cauldron eats. Eats. I This might be my favorite square. I'm not even gonna lie here. I mean it's so I had never seen this before. I just went around Googling like Halloween appliques, Halloween granny square, blah blah blah. And I mean, I felt like I was on the dark web at some points because I was deep in the Google searches. But somehow she crossed my path. It's the same woman that made the witch boot applique, the candy corn applique. Pretty straightforward. It's by Maria's Blue Crayon blog. So this is a lollipop granny square. So I did the starting color of the pattern. I followed it to a T. Was yellow. And then the surface crochet I did was orange on that side. I started with purple, surface crocheted with green. Love the contrast on this side. I did alter this one slightly. So I followed the pattern normal, except like the spider on very hard to see with black. So this is like the row where you turn it from a circle to a square. I did 2 additional rows. The last 2 rows though are half double crochets instead of double crochets around. I also think I used a 4.5mm hook on this one. I'm gonna be honest, I never use the recommended hook size that a pattern suggests. To me, I just have my like tried and true hooks that I use, and I mean, you know your tension best. So I usually know like how my stuff's gonna turn out. Like with what I'm making, I usually know how it's gonna turn out for the hook. Like an applique, I want it to be small, condensed. I know that I need to use a 3.5mm hook. You know, I don't know. Maybe it's controversial, but I'm using 99% of the time a 4.5 or a 5.5mm hook. And that's really not up for debate. So we still have the moon and the cat. I tried to follow the autumn olive crochet cat quilt square pattern. It is not on the pattern because I have tested for autumn olive before. I love her patterns, very detailed. I don't know what I did wrong, but I could not get the right stitch count to save my life. It ended up fine. I just had to alter it when I changed it from a circle to the square part, like that part of a granny square. I had to alter it. I don't even know what I did. I would just confuse you if I tried. So you're welcome to try that one. It's free. It was self-explanatory. I just could not figure it out. I also have linked a YouTube video of the Moonlight Cat Granny Square, and it looks essentially just like the one I did. If you use the autumn olive one like I did, it doesn't have the whiskers. I just embroidered them on. Yeah, that's where it doesn't do it for me, but it fits the vibe of the sweater. So, whatever. Lastly, the Moon Granny Square. This one I use all the time. I follow it to a T. The only thing is the very last round, I did add 1 row of half double crochets instead of double crochets. Hold it up to your standard one. So in total, I have 12 squares on the front, 12 squares on the back, and then that's all I did. You can also make them as many long as you want. I love a cropped look, and I know that works for me. You might have to add another square, like add another row of squares, either this way or that way. You know yourself. So the join as you go method, I will link a video. I will die by this method. Just for example, like my squares are attached with a slip stitch, and as you're crocheting, you just hook it onto the next one. Personally, I hate the look of sewing either by hand or even with a hook granny squares together. I don't like that little dent that it makes. It just looks, it physically looks uncomfortable to me, like to wear. Like it doesn't just lay. Like I like when a clothes just lay. Like comfortably, flowy, whatever. So I found this, and it's an extra step that you have to do. And I am all about taking steps out. Like skip them. So this combines both. It does not, it makes the sweater lay perfectly, and it also keeps it loosey-goosey. It still keeps you warm. You don't have to sew it. Another end you don't have to weave in. Love that. The join as you go, like it just, the only thing that makes it harder is you have to have a plan. Like I said, you can't like lay them out and then rearrange, or you can rearrange, but you can't weave in any ends until you're like locked in. That is why I do a rough sketch. That is how that happens. So, whether you're joining as you go or you're sewing, when I attach the sides, for me, I like an oversized boxy look. When you attach the sides, so like front panel to back panel, both right sides are looking up, or like facing out, like wrong side is placed to wrong side. So this is the bottom, and then this is the side. I leave these squares not attached to the back, and then I sew, or I join as you go up to here, and then I leave everything else, like from this stitch on up, I do not attach. I will try and get a visual of that because I know that didn't make sense. Alright, attach that, leave the rest unattached. That will be like how it connects on the side. And then do that on both sides evenly. Only go up to X. Only go up to like X amount of spaces on both sides. Do not go more on the other. Seems self-explanatory, but I've made that mistake. For your shoulders. So I've just made a bunch of these so I know where I want them. It's also for me, so you can just keep trying it on. But that's what I recommend. I recommend trying it on. Essentially, after you do any step, like in the building process, try it on. Make sure it's still hitting the sizes you want. There's nothing worse than almost finishing and then realize, like, oh, the armhole is a little too small. Because too small is always harder to fix than too big. In the beginning, I would also safety pin, like, where I thought I wanted the sleeve or the shoulders to connect, like how big I needed the neck, and then would try it on, see if it was good, needed more or less, whatever, go from there. So on this one, I like my necks to kind of angle, so I do one row of granny stitch from, I'm really trying to make this as easy as possible. I feel like I'm making it the most complicated thing ever. So I want my, where these two white pieces start, that is what I wanted my neck. So I do one row of the white, one row of granny stitch, and then anytime I'm at like a conjoining or I'm where two corners meet, I essentially a decrease, but it's not. I just think it pulls them together and I like that. So I do that until the end, and then I do a second row, except this time when I am one cluster, like one space away from the beginning, I decrease. And then I just double crochet into the end. And then that just kind of gives it a little bit of an angle. Not a lot. And you can skip this if you want. I do that on all my stuff. Then I do that. So this is the side we just did. You do that to these. So you start in the same space, like the corresponding space on the other side, one row. The second row, decrease when you're headed to the neck. And then we join as you go to the other side. So our 2 rows on the one, our 2 rows on the other, and then we joined the entire way. So that is how we add the shoulders together. How I do my ribbing, I single crochet around in the color that I want the ribbing to be, and then I chain X amount on however long I want. I think this one was 4. I 99% of the time use, like, if this sweater is typically a 5.5 millimeter hook, I will go a 4.5 millimeter hook, and that's just to kind of give it a cinched in look. So that is what I did on this. For sleeves, I think on this specific one, I actually made them a little larger than I normally do. Very easy to fix. But what you do is you just put a granny square cluster into each space of your squares. Where 2 corners meet, we join them into one cluster, go all the way around, and it depends on what colors you want. This one you really don't need a layout for colors. I just kept it in the Halloween theme. I just wanted it to primarily be the white, black, and then like pops of color. So I started with white, did that all the way around. I think I did 3 rows. How I solved it was too big, like the armpit and the top of the shoulder, I decreased those like immediately. And then I would gradually decrease throughout, and then every row, or I think I did every other row, I decreased 1. So like the first row was the armpit area and top of shoulder, then I did a decrease like right here, like in this side, and then I did a row of normal, and then I did a decrease on the outside. Like, try to space them out. Don't always put like all of them in the armpit or whatever. But this is where I just like would try it on, see if I liked it, saw how it was hitting my arm, go from there. And then once you kind of have it like to the ending you want, circumference that you want, just don't change anything. Just keep going around, changing colors wherever you need to. I did the same thing as I did for the neck ribbing. The single crochet row, decrease as necessary. I typically do like a couple decreases just because I like ribbing to rib. I don't know. Like, I like the ribbing to cinch in on things like a sleeve, a neck, you know. For the bottom, same thing, single crochet row. If it's like a little too short and it's like not short enough that you want to add an entire row of granny squares, you could always do like granny stitch along the bottom for like a row or 2, just to add like maybe an inch and a half, then do your ribbing, or you can just make your ribbing longer. That is really all of the tips and tricks I have that I can think of. In the description, I will have a few other like appliques and granny squares that would have been cool to use that I did not in mine, but they're on theme of Halloween and would look great in a sweater. So if you follow anything in this tutorial, please, I am begging you to tag me. I want to see more Halloween sweaters. It's the best time of the year. It's my favorite season. I would like to see it. If you have any suggestions or comments on how I did, again, first video, expectations are low. But I just wanted to get this out as fast as possible because Halloween is right around the corner. So I want us all to be wearing a gaudy, ugly Halloween sweater that's not ugly in the slightest. Instagram, I'm at grandma.era. It will be linked. But yeah, I post a lot of colorful, funky crochet stuff. So feel free to follow me on there too.